Awesome, cool. So there will be people jumping in and out as we go, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen with you guys if I can find the button for it. Share screen, there we go. Cool. Let's pop that across and share that one. Where's the present button? There we go. Cool. So I'll go through this, and then if you guys have any questions after, you can just obviously ask. There's going to be a lot of people watching the recording. So what I recommend you guys doing who are watching that, when you get to the end of the workshop and you finish it, feel free. So the workshop's going to go up in the Gut Health Solutions Facebook group and out via email, but that's primarily where it's going to sit. So if you got questions, once you've watched it, just pop them in the Facebook group. When you're popping questions, just a reminder, and even you guys in the Root Cause program who are watching this, remember to tag me in your questions. And it's the same if you do that in the Gut Health Solution group. If you tag in your questions, then it's so much easier for me to answer you because I see them, whereas sometimes I miss those Facebook notifications. So I'll pop that up for you. But yeah, any questions at the end of the workshop, feel free to ask. There is a lot of information here, so that's why it is being recorded, so you can go back and rewatch and listen to it. But I do love this time of year. I think it's, generally pretty good, pretty fun, but I find it's such a overwhelming time of the year that not only are clients going, I'm time poor, I've got so much to organize, or I've got stuff going on with work, or I'm by myself this year and it's a bit tricky, or I've got kids I'm trying to manage, or kids are wrapping up with school, finances. There's so many balls that are being juggled this time of the year. So I think it's nice to kind of cover the foundations of things, as well as kind of going, okay, well, when we're, looking at different foods and what's going to trigger us this time of year, because that's the other thing, is generally there is more social activity. So you might be eating out at different places, you might be eating more than you normally eat, you might be drinking more than you normally eat. So there's these different things going on that you've got to try and navigate on top of your normal either hormone or gut or fatigue issues. So for those watching who don't know me, my background, in short and sweet, is I did my Bachelor of Sports Science, went on to do my Masters of Nutrition. I've also done a heap of extra study in being able to train those to study Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, and also my Cert 4 in train those doing their Cert 4 in nutrition as well, and then really specialize in the functional diagnostic nutrition realm. So my day today is really hosting my podcast.
Hey, how was it?
The stuff. Awesome. I'll just mute you guys. A lot of the stuff we cover today, there are podcast episodes on it as well. So if you get a bit stuck, you're more than welcome to go back and listen through the podcast. I also work one-on-one with women, and mostly I'm really active on my Instagram and in the Gut Health Solutions Facebook group. So a lot of you guys know my story, so I'm not going to go into it in depth. Really jump into the first or second podcast episodes, and I really cover the bloating and the stomach pain that I went through, as well as those 7 years and no periods, until I sort of found out I had all those gut issues, the candida, the SIBO, the gut dysbiosis, and everything else going on. And I think this is such an important story just because so often we feel like we're alone going through these things, or we're like, is there actually solutions? Is there answers? I am nothing like the girl I was 10 years ago. So I've just celebrated my 10-year anniversary from when I first got sick. So I was 18 on a Bali trip that I picked up parasites and the bacteria and the SIBO, and I also started uni, and my parents divorced. I had a lot of stress, so I had this combination of the stress as well as the gut stuff, as well as this adrenal fatigue, burnout, over-exercise, body image, sort of eating disorder stuff as well. So there was a combination of things going on there. And really functional testing gave me the answers that I needed, because I was bouncing from practitioner to practitioner and I wasn't getting answers and I couldn't get solutions. And it was just a very medical approach of go get blood testing, try this medication, go on the birth control pill, do all these things, which were not giving me the answers to help fix my acne and my missing periods and my stomach pain. And that really spiraled and gave me a lot of anxiety around food and going out with people, and it stopped me dating, and I was very, very stressed. It affected a lot of my family relationships. So a lot of the women I work with are going through similar things, whether it comes to weight, so not being able to lose weight, or a lot of adrenal fatigue, or having, no energy to exercise, or the IBS, constipation, loose stools, bloating stuff. So today I really want to chat about some of your foods, your bloating triggers, supplements that are going to help and support it, foods that will help and support it, and really some of those root causes of what could be triggering that stuff, because obviously we know not everyone gets triggered by food. Everyone I know is like, or everyone I work with is like, but my friend eats that and is fine. Or, like we could go out for a night drinking and she recovers totally fine and I feel like shit the next day. So there's always that sort of thing of like, why is my body so reactive? The other thing is to keep the bowels moving over the festive period. Some people, yes, they struggle with loose stools and that's not the issue. But if you do struggle with constipation, this is a massive issue for clearing toxins, for having that estrogen overload, and also for having that heavy fullness that just makes you feel like crap, and then not being able to eat or not being able to socialize or exercise or do those other things. Briefly, just want to touch on tracking over the festive season, and then some alcohol options as well. So really with bloating, I'll keep this short and sweet, but there's different reasons why you get bloated. And this is just the real simple basics behind it, is that if you drink too much bubbly food, you're probably going to get bloated because you've chucked a whole heap of gas and bubbles into your stomach. Eating a large meal or eating too fast is going to make you feel bloated because you're not giving your body time to digest those foods properly. If you're on your period, the change in hormones can make you feel bloated. If you're constipated, you can feel bloated. Basically, it's when your GI tract, which runs from your mouth down to your butt, when that is filled with gas, okay? So like I said, if you eat or drink something too fast and it's not getting broken down properly, that's going to give you that bloating feeling. But often we can also see that hormonal shift around ovulation, which makes us hold on to more fluid, which is what's making you feel a bit bloated and heavy as well. So sometimes people can't identify well between bloating, overeating, and also just like I'm carrying a bit of extra weight. But bloating is a feeling, okay? So it's that tightness, it's that it can be painful, it's a very specific feeling. So if you don't feel that, then I'd say, okay, well, that's not bloating, that's just your body shape a bit. If you overeat, it's slightly different, because even though you'll be bloated, you are really full. The classic thing with bloating is you're waking up bloated, or you're getting bloated as the day goes on. Like this is, stand back in. This photo of me here, that is how I would wake up in the morning, and by the end of the day, I had that sort of that classic lower bloat going on. Okay, so I'm not a big girl, I'm not overweight or anything like that, but I found by the end of the day, because of the SIBO stuff, I had a lot of bloating, or I could even wake up, have loose bowel movements and still be bloated for the day and not have an appetite. So it was definitely not an overeating thing, it was a bloating thing. Oops, I don't know what that timer is doing. Yes, guys. Oh, there we go. We're back. Cool. So the other thing that can happen is fermenting, so gas and constipation. So that is what can cause that bloating, all right? So gas in your intestines, often people talk about FODMAPs. That's because these are fermentable carbohydrates that don't get well absorbed in your digestive tract. Okay, so basically foods, your big ones are your dairy, your gluten, your legumes and stuff like onion and garlic can't get broken down by that bacteria, or they get fermented in your small intestine where there's too much bacteria, because ideally you break food down in your mouth, goes to your small intestine, that absorbs the nutrients, goes to your large intestine, feeds the bacteria, produces enough fecal mass for you to have a bowel movement. Imagine you have a lot of bacteria in your small intestine. That whole fermenting process is starting too early and it's feeding the wrong bacteria, okay? So then you get all this gas, and gas is what can cause the constipation. On the flip side, you get that gas, you get that fermenting, it struggles to come through, and then you get this flushing effect and you get loose stools, okay? So that's when we get classic IBS, because you got that constipation, that loose stools, that bloating, and it purely comes down to that sort of foods you're eating, which are not bad foods, but your body can't break it down properly, so it's getting malabsorbed, so it's producing this bloating reaction. So what to do? So short term, we know that avoiding the foods can really help. Like a lot of the women I work with report within the first, couple of weeks, there's a massive reduction in their gas, in their bloating, and then sometimes there's changes in bowel movements as well, okay? And this is purely from dietary changes and going, okay, let's just remove some of those triggers to calm everything down. So my recommendations over the festive season is not to not eat all the foods you love, but maybe just try and minimize some of your trigger foods. If you know gluten is a trigger, try to go for gluten-free crackers. If you know dairy is a bit of a trigger, stick to hard cheeses rather than soft bries. Stick to more proteins and fats rather than big bowls of, veggies, even if it's broccoli and Brussels sprouts and pumpkin or whatever it is. That stuff is more likely to give you a reaction than having steak or chicken or turkey or, a roast. So the meats, the fats, the protein, the higher fat and protein diet, even though that's not my long-term approach because you guys need your carbohydrates, it will help reduce some of that gas and bloating. Especially your legumes can be a big one, and too much dairy and too much wheat will be your big one. So trying to work your way around them would make a huge difference to your comfort levels. Eating slowly can be really helpful. Watching your amount of bubbly drinks can definitely help with the bloating as well. The carrot salad, which is on my Instagram, or also I think it's on my YouTube channel, or otherwise Google the raw carrot salad by Ray Peat. That is really good for keeping you regular as well, okay? That extra fiber is going to help move everything through your digestive tract. PHGG is a really, really good prebiotic fiber supplement that's well tolerated by most people with SIBO and with large intestinal stuff, which is going to help move everything through your digestive tract as well. So it actually feeds the good gut flora and it helps you have regular bowel movements. It's even good if you're having loose stools. PHGG is one of my first supplements I'll prescribe for a lot of people. Magnesium citrate is really, really a game changer if you're struggling with constipation, okay? So 400 milligrams AM and PM can help to keep things moving. If you're still struggling with constipation, then go the next level, and that's magnesium oxide. It's not like a laxative. All it does is just draws water into the bowels, and that moves things through, as opposed to like Sienna or those other ones, which kind of stimulate the muscle contraction, and then you can get that real painful muscle contractions in that IBS, which is not much fun. If it's not SIBO, then the lactulose syrup you get from the chemist is really good at regulating bowel movements. I actually always take that with me when I fly and travel, just because if flying tends to get me a little bit constipated. I'll just take some lactulose with me, have it before and after I fly, take a bit of magnesium, and I'll just find it'll keep my bowels regular. And then these are the probiotics I go for if you're struggling with bloating or IBS type symptoms. So those irregular bowel movements, they will help to calm, heal the digestive tract, and keep things moving through. If it's loose stools, the Saccharomyces boulardii, doubler AM and PM, is super helpful. The other things you can do if you haven't done, because the causes of bloating, obviously, you've got the food side of things. So as an immediate reaction, you've got the bacteria stuff going on, but also if you've got poor digestion. So if you haven't done the apple cider vinegar test or the stomach acid baking soda challenge or test, see my YouTube or go to the podcast episode I did in the last 5-6 weeks. I think it's somewhere there. On that, go through and do that, and then add in the right support accordingly, okay? Because this will help identify if you have low stomach acid. Because if you've got low stomach acid, you're going to struggle to digest proteins, you're going to struggle to break down food, you're going to struggle to absorb your nutrients, and you're going to be at risk of SIBO, okay? So some of our natural options for digestive support, ginger is a really good one. I use ginger powder on things, but fresh ginger or grated ginger is awesome. Zinc-rich foods, same with supplementing with zinc, if your zinc is on the lower end, because if you've got low zinc and low B12, we often know you've got low stomach acid, okay? So zinc-rich foods, obviously you're chewing properly. Vagus nerve stimulation, if your body is really out of whack and that vagus nerve is not talking to the rest of your body properly, that can help on a lower level, okay? So that's further down the chain type stuff, but it can be helpful. Stress around meals, so if you're eating on the go, that's something that can often cause that bloating because your body needs to be in rest and digest mode. Water away from your meals because you're diluting that stomach acid. And then having like a bit of ginger, turmeric, and half a lemon, having a bit of shot before a meal, again, is going to help stimulate those gastric juices to help you break down your food. HCl, so you'll learn about that when you do the apple cider vinegar and stomach acid test, is a further up the line type strategy. So you don't want to start using that until you've spoken to your healthcare practitioner or you know that you've got low stomach acid. But Jetnin root is really good. Peppermint's really good. Possibly B12, that's the same with zinc if you're deficient in them and that's causing your issues, especially if you've got SIBO. And digestive enzymes can be really, really helpful if you're going out and eating as well. So basically, if you're getting a lot of those symptoms, you just got to think about, okay, well, what kind of IBS symptoms am I getting? Is this coming just from the foods I'm eating because it's a festive season, I'm overeating and I'm eating a lot of trigger foods? Or is this something I'm getting sort of all the time? The classic sort of definition is constipation, or loose stools, or alternating of both. The bloating, the indigestion, often sore stomach, like a lot of women get that abdominal pain. I went out for a couple of days. I was in Perth at a business conference and we're eating all over the place. And I just found that made a huge difference to stomach flare-ups. So when you're not eating the regular meals at regular timing or you're eating a little bit all over the place, you can definitely get that flare-up in symptoms as well. And then also depending on your hormonal picture too, okay? So if you've got PCOS or endo or immune conditions, this too is going to make you more prone to IBS because like I said, those hormonal shifts are what's going to cause those fluctuations in your bowel movements as well. There is a link between, things like if you've got IBS, then it can aggravate these hormonal pictures, can aggravate skin conditions, but you also get that malabsorption of nutrients, which is obviously going to affect thyroid, metabolism, weight loss, and everything else. This picture here is just a classic example of someone who has IBS because they've got this SIBO overgrowth, okay? So you can see that gray line is up at 80. That is how much gas is being produced by bacteria in her small intestine, which is giving her those IBS symptoms. Then we kind of think about, okay, if it is IBS, what is going on? And like I said, if you've got an overgrowth of bacteria, like here, that's one issue. Then the flip side is if you have an undergrowth, like if you look at this picture here, we want this spider web to be at all these little middle points. If you've got an undergrowth, this is just as problematic in causing your symptoms, okay? A lot of people think you've got to go in and just kill the bacteria. If you have an undergrowth, that also is going to mean that you cannot break down foods properly. You're going to be reacting to all those high FODMAP foods we chatted about because your body isn't able to break them down properly. So understanding on a microbiome test what that bacterial balance is really, really important as well. And then also if you've got dysbiotic bacteria, so like this chick here has got a 4+ of this Citrobacter, that too can give you a lot of those IBS symptoms, okay? Because your body has to, just mute this one, your body has to try and be detoxing and removing them, okay? So just remember, there's a range of different reasons why you may have these IBS type symptoms. So stool testing is really important. SIBO breath testing is really, really important. Stomach acid support, like we chatted about, is really, really important as well. I'm just going to mute you guys because I've got a few of you coming in and just Joyce is just going in twice. So I'm just going to mute that. Oops. See how that goes. Yeah, and then also hormonal support is a really big one as well. So a lot of these guys have done Dutch testing, which also gives you a good idea of sort of what's going on with that estrogen picture, that adrenal picture, which is also going to tie into this bacteria stuff. Because if you've got an undergrowth or an overgrown microbiome, that is going to impact the way that you remove estrogen from the body. So lastly, really on this hormonal support picture. So we know that excess estrogen causes water retention, and most women I work with have too much estrogen and not enough progesterone. And this is causing their weight gain. This is causing their fluid retention, their water retention, which is also causing PMS, painful periods, that sort of breast tenderness, all those symptoms, okay? On top of that, when we're talking about our gut issues, we know that they can each cause gas, that change in meals, and also understanding that the way you eat is impacted by your hormones. So often women who are tired, or if we're coming into our periods, we want more snacky foods, okay? This then in turn dysregulates your blood sugar, okay? And we need enough protein to help stabilize your blood sugar levels. This is the key, like the biggest thing I see that causes hormone issues is imbalanced blood sugars, spiking cortisol, spiking that stress response, and also seeing that shift, slide that one in. Yeah, seeing that shift in estrogen, because when you are more stressed, you seem to see that rise in estrogen, which then causes that flow-on effect of symptoms. You can see from this Dutch test, like this is classic of a female who's spiking. She's all right in the morning, but you're spiking quite high and then bottoming out in the afternoon, okay? So it's below, like super, super low in the afternoon. So we really want to make sure you've got a stable cortisol flow over the whole day, rather than having these highs and these lows, because that's obviously going to trigger that whole hormonal cascade as well. Having mineral dense foods like your trace mineral drops, your adrenal cocktail, your oysters, your beef liver are all game changers when it comes to your hormones. Obviously, stress reduction, mindful activities, exercise, belly breaths, all that stuff is really, really important. Understanding the relationship between skipping meals, or often I see mums just snacking all day and not having enough protein in their meals, that makes a huge difference with energy levels, weight loss, and also that hormonal support. So eating regularly and eating enough protein will help massively with your hormones. Herbal teas can be really, really good. Okay, so stuff like your nettle tea can be really helpful in estrogen detoxing, but also supporting that whole hormonal shift. And then specific supplements. So if they're estrogen, we're kind of looking at things like your NAC or your DIM or your broccoli sprouts, or things that are going to support those liver detoxing pathways, as well as that adrenal support. So you can see here, for someone who's crashing in the afternoon, if we can support that adrenal picture throughout the day, so you're not getting to 1, 2 o'clock and just needing to sleep, okay? And then really lastly, just touching on macros, okay? So macros and weight loss do play an important role. So some people really love tracking, some people really don't love tracking. It is different for everyone. Now, the reasons I get women to track, I don't do body comp particularly at all, I don't. I do the gut health and the hormone stuff, but often we'll get tracking because to regulate your blood sugar levels. So I want to know that you're eating minimum 5 times a day and you're having protein, carbs, and fats at every meal. And the easiest way to do that is to track and to have a look at Chronometer. And I've got a video on YouTube on this, but having a look at that and going, okay, break it into your meals and have a look at, you know, how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs, how many fat. You know, if we got 30 protein, we want minimum 30 to 60 carbs, and we want around 5 to 10 to 15 grams of fat, okay? So breaking that up makes a huge difference. If someone's under eating or has period issues, then I definitely get them to track as well. If they're exercising, I like to get you to track to make sure you're eating enough carbohydrates, okay, across the day. If I feel like you're under eating or overeating, I might get you to track again to go, are you eating enough carbs? Are you eating enough protein? And are you eating enough food standard? Because a lot of women are under eating and can't lose weight because they've stuffed up that thyroid pattern. Then the other really cool thing is it tracks, like Chronometer tracks your B vitamins, your minerals, your fiber, all that kind of stuff really well, which is where I find it super, super helpful to make sure you're hitting those macro and micronutrient goals, okay? Especially things like your zinc or your vitamin D, vitamin K, all those little micronutrients, which make a really big difference. So when it's the festive season going out, is this the time to start tracking? No, it's not, because it's really hard, okay? I find, though, if you are already tracking, then just focus on staying on track during the week, and on your weekends or your events, don't worry about tracking. So say, you know, you've got a dinner that night. Well, sure, just track breakfast and snacks and lunch and don't worry about dinner, because then you know you've balanced your blood sugars for 2 or 3 of those meals already by eating enough protein. You're not trying to hit your end goal, but you're trying to make sure that they are balanced meals, okay? Because often we're overeating in fat, overeating in carbs, and undereating in our protein, okay? The other way you can do it is if you've got an event on Saturday, maybe you reduce your whole calories across the week by, you know, 30 to 40 grams or something like that. And then, oh yeah, cool. Jodie just said, I'm so glad you said that, Sheridan, been tracking, but I know over the coming weekend it'll get a little festive with food. Yeah. So often, like when I was tracking quite strictly, the recommendation, if you are tracking during the week, is you can reduce. So say my daily goal was 2,300 calories. I would just eat around 2,100 each day, so that by the time I got to Saturday, I was in a slight surplus kind of thing. So I had extra sort of calories in that week, which is kind of how you can do it as well. I just would reduce it slightly because I knew that consistently for the next couple of weekends, I had hens and weddings and stuff on. I was always going to be in excess on those days. So I just kind of ate a little bit less during the week. And then lastly, really alcohol. So Alcohol, low fermented options are usually the best way to go. So you're looking for things, like your spirits rather than your beers or your ciders or that kind of stuff, which can cause a lot more negative reactions. The other side of things is if you're sensitive to histamines or sulfites or additives, then being really careful with your wines, okay? So if you get that real flushed reaction, have a look what's in your wine. Is it organic? Does it have additives? Does it have a lot of sulfites? All those kind of things, because they will make a difference in the way that you metabolize it. So alcohol has to be metabolized by the liver, okay? So by your liver. So that means your liver needs extra support. The best way to support your liver is eating beef liver, ironically, because it's so high in minerals and vitamins, and also taking your B vitamin supplements, okay? So doing that consistently will help that detoxing. If you're a NAC, NAC, that can be really helpful as well. So they're going to help limit the damage, but also just help clear it through your body. Fructose also helps the liver detox from alcohol, okay? So having orange juice and coconut water and salt after drinking, or having your adrenal cocktail when you get home, or between drinks will be really, really helpful. So having that fructose, so if you like to have gin, have your gin and soda and then have a little bit of orange juice, or have, your orange juice in it as well. Whatever you like, having that bit of fructose will just help you clear it better, okay? And then always drinking water and eating between alcohol is, I feel like, a very obvious one, but often we do not do it, okay? It will make a very big difference in your recovery and your body's ability to clear that alcohol and the next day. So yeah, adrenal cocktails, take your beef liver supplements or cook your beef liver and have that. Continue to take your B vitamin supplements and also have fructose around your drinks as well. Then when you're picking wines, look for organic, low additive, low sulfite options, which are going to be way easier on you and not give you that hangover the next day. Cool. So if you guys have got any questions, I will be posting this video for those that came later, for all those watching live, in the Gut Health Solutions Facebook group. If you want to have a look and further at some of those nutritional strategies, jump on my website under Learn, and I do have the nutritional strategies for IBS there, which would be really helpful for you. Or go back through the podcast episodes and have a look at some of those ones that we touched on stomach acid, on bloating, on digestion, because they're going to be a game changer for some of you who cannot break down your foods properly, okay? I know that was a big thing for some people, realizing and going, oh, wow, okay, I actually can't digest my foods properly. It's not so much that I have a gut bacteria imbalance. It's more that I just got low stomach acid. So I'm just going to open this up for questions. Does anybody have any questions? I might just stop the sharing.